Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Kristen. This is my booktube. In today's video, we are going to be doing, you guessed it, more reading and more crocheting because we are into the last 2 weeks before my work holiday market happens on the 9th of December. So we're getting down to the wire and I still have a lot of stuff that I want to crochet and also a lot of books that I want to read before the end of the year. So as we've been doing for the last 2 weeks, we are coupling those together and we are doing a good old-fashioned reading vlog slash crochet with me vlog. And we are picking up right where we left off in the last video with Daisy Jones and the Six. I am about 3.5-ish hours into that book. And we are in the thick of Daisy Jones and the Six now. In the plot of the story, we have just gotten to the point where Daisy is joining the band. Billy and his wife had their twin daughters. Graham and Karen are now a secret item, and they're spending a lot of time together while the band is in between albums. So we've got a good chunk of the story behind us. I don't really know where it's gonna go from here. I don't know much about the premise of Daisy Jones and the Six other than they're supposed to be like a Fleetwood Mac kind of band. At least that's what I understand, and Daisy Jones does give Stevie Nicks vibes for sure. But so far I am enjoying it. I did know that Billy, Sam Claflin's character in the movie, does cheat on his wife, but I honestly didn't expect it to happen as early on in the book as it did. Like, from the get-go, he is cheating on his wife. Like, literally the first tour they go on, he is cheating on his then girlfriend, and then she becomes his wife later on. I personally love Sam Claflin. I believe that I've talked about that before when I've done my Hunger Games reread. And so I feel like because he has a special place in my heart, I just really didn't want him to be a cheater straight off the bat. But Billy in this story is very much into the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll persona. And to be fair to the character, he did go to rehab, he did clean up his act, he's been a lot better to his wife, he's been there for his kids. So he is so far playing the part of the reformed man. We will see how long that lasts because I just don't think it's gonna last very long, to be quite honest. But we will see what else happens as we go through this book, and hopefully we will be able to finish it at some point this week. It is the week of Thanksgiving, so I might not get through as much reading as I want to, but I think I should still be able to manage 2 of the books that I have currently borrowed, because aside from Daisy Jones and the Six, which is already a bit on the shorter side and I'm already about 40% of the way in, one of the other books that I have borrowed from my local library is The Regatta Mystery by Agatha Christie. And like I mentioned in last week's video, I've been wanting to pick up another Agatha Christie book just because it's been a minute since I've read one. A minute being like July, August, so it hasn't been a super long time, but it's been a minute for me. So I wanted to pick another one of those up, especially because they are on the shorter side. They're usually pretty straightforward and a fun read for me, so it seemed like a good time to sprinkle one of those in. And because it is a shorter read, should be easier for me to get through in this busy holiday week as well. Some of the other books that I have borrowed from my library right now are Evenings and Weekends, which is a book that I started in like September and then I never finished. So I borrowed that again to try to get it read at some point in the near future. Then I also borrowed Mythos because I'm still wanting to reread those Stephen Fry books before diving into the Odyssey. And then the other book that I have borrowed that I probably won't touch until early December is called The Snow Child, and that is our workbook club's pick for the month of December. So I will have to read that by like December 19th, I think is when our meeting is. But I do have some time before that needs to be finished, and I do want to save that one. Since it is more of like a wintry kind of book, I wanted to save that for December as well to get me into the Christmas spirit, even though it's not explicitly Christmas, it's just wintry. So those are the books we're going to be choosing from this week as we read on. Then as far as the crochet progress goes, I have 2 main goals that I want to get to this week, and then everything else that I do is going to be just kind of gravy on top. So the main things I want to focus on are completing this bag of half-made mini plushies. As I've shown before, I have a lot of like half finished whales that just need their white bellies done and they need some eyes before they are completed and ready to go. And then I also have little chicken bodies in here as well that need to be stuffed, sewn up, and embroidered so that they can be ready to go as well. Since these are so small, they should be fairly quick to finish, which is good because there's like over 40 things in here, so hopefully we can get them all finished this week. And then the other big thing that I wanted to focus on was making some bandanas to sell at my market. And I bought these two yarns specifically to make bandanas for the market. So I really want to actually follow through and do that. If I hadn't bought new yarn specifically with that intent, I wouldn't be as adamant at making them for this market. But I've shown you these before. I specifically bought these two colorways because I thought they would make some really cute headbands that I can just picture some of the girls in my office really enjoying and looking very cute on them. So I wanted to make sure that I had some of those just because there are specific people in my office that I think would look so cute with a bandana in one of these colors. But yeah, so those are my main two goals for this week. I will definitely probably be doing other things. I still have that other mesh market bag that I started in the last video, and I have been periodically working on last night / this morning, but I do have a lot of bags already and I really want to focus my energy on some of the things that I don't have completed. And these are two of the things that I really want to have completed for my market. So yeah, those are the main goals this week, and there will probably be some other things that we get into along the way, some other small impulsive makes that I just decide on a whim that I want to make. So we will see what else we get into, but yeah. So as far as tonight goes, I think I'm gonna focus on finishing some of these mini whales since they are so small and I can hopefully crank them out pretty quickly. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump on into it and get to the crafting for the evening. Alrighty friends, checking in. It is now Tuesday. It is the afternoon, about 4:20 p.m. to be exact. And I just wanted to hop on and give a little check-in. So last night / early this morning, I finished all of my little mini whales that I had halfway made at the beginning of this. I think they turned out really cute. And similar to the octopi, I do have 6 different colors of them, and I did 5 of each as well. So we've got 30 baby whales here ready to go. So love that for us. And then as far as the reading goes, I did make it quite a way into Daisy Jones and the Six. I just kind of zoned out while I was doing the whales, and I didn't even realize how much of the book I had made it through until I paused it and was getting ready to go to bed. But I believe I only have like 3-ish hours left in the audiobook, maybe even less than that, to be honest. So we should definitely be able to finish that tonight, which is exciting, and then we can move on to the Agatha Christie regatta mystery that I also have borrowed. And I am enjoying Daisy Jones and the Six, but I'm not enjoying it as much as I expected I would. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. There's nothing that I just am straight up not enjoying, but it's just kind of, I don't know. It just feels kind of mid to me, honestly, compared to the other Taylor Jenkins Reid books that I have read in this little universe that she's created. Like, I literally just finished Carrie Soto Is Back not too long ago, and that one definitely gripped me more story-wise than this one has. I don't know if that's going to change as the book goes on, but as of right now, I'm about 60% of the way through the book, I believe, and it's shaping up to be my least favorite of all of the Taylor Jenkins Reid books that I have read. And once again, that's not to say that it's bad, it's just kind of meh to me at this point. Unless something crazy happens in the last 3 hours, it's just been kind of a middle of the road historical fiction book to me. Still want to watch the show though after this, because I will watch anything that Sam Claflin is in. I love that man. So I will be watching the show still, just so I can see his beautiful face. But other than that, don't know how I'm gonna feel about this book at the end. And if it just keeps going in the same direction that it's been going, I fear I may forget this book entirely 6 months down the road. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how I feel at the end of it. For this evening, I actually want to get out and go for a walk. I am off work now, and it is absolutely beautiful outside. It is, I believe, about 68 degrees and sunny out. It has been absolutely just pouring down rain over the weekend, so I want to take advantage of this nicer weather and go outside and touch some grass. So I think we're gonna do that first, and I will probably be listening to Daisy Jones and the Six on my walk, at least for part of it. And then when I get back here, I do want to continue with our crochet progress, finish Daisy Jones and the Six, and depending on how I'm feeling, I may start another book this evening, or I may switch to watching some TV, a YouTube video, something like that. And for the crochet project I want to work on tonight, I want to finish making all of these little chicken bodies that I've been putting off doing for weeks at this point. But I have pre-made these little, what are meant to be bodies for mini chickens. Hello, can you focus? I have pre-made these that are meant to be bodies for mini chickens, and this is the kind of vibe when you sew them up. I still have to give this guy eyes and a beak, so even this one is not completely finished, but you get the idea of how they're gonna look like chickens in the near future. And I do have quite a bit more work to do on these chickens because I only have 2 colors of the bodies, and I want to have 4 colors in total. I have an off-white yarn that I want to use, and then I also want to do some brown chickens as well. So the focus for this evening is going to be making more of those chicken bodies and starting to stuff and embroider the ones that I have already made. But all of that is going to happen after I go on my walk. So let's go ahead and get started with that, and then we can continue with the rest of the crocheting for the evening. Alrighty, hello everyone, checking back in. It is Wednesday evening now, so I have a bit to catch you up on since we last spoke. So last night I was a little overzealous about how much I thought I could do. I really thought that these little chickens would not take that long to put together, but I underestimated how long it would take to embroider on the little beaks and everything. So I ended up getting 25 of them finished last night. So that means that I still have 15 more to complete, and I have already stuffed them and they are basically halfway sewn up. I basically stuffed them and then did this seam right here. So all they really need are the comb and their beaks done. But this is all I was able to get completed last night. Still a good amount. I'm still happy with the progress that I made. I just thought I would be able to get through all of them last night, but by the time I finished crocheting and finally went to bed, it was almost 12:30 a.m. So definitely was overestimating what I was able to get done. Then as far as the reading goes, I did finish Daisy Jones and the Six, and it was good. I still don't think it was in my top 3 of the Taylor Jenkins Reid universe books. It was mostly just an okay story throughout most of it, and it did have a cute ending. I did enjoy the way that it ended. But yeah, I just think that it didn't have the same kind of emotional grip on me that Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or Malibu Rising did. And I even think that I would put Carrie Soto's back above this one. But all that being said, they're all great books. Like, I still enjoyed my time reading this book. Obviously, I finished it very quickly and I gave it 4 stars in the end. It's just at the bottom of the hierarchy of some really good books. So yeah, I do still want to watch the show at some point. I may try to do that over the next few days. We'll see. I still also want to watch Gone Girl too. So maybe that's something that we could do like tomorrow night after I'm done with my family Thanksgiving. We'll have to see. So I didn't really do any crocheting this morning because I had some other stuff to do. I had some dishes to do, and then I had to get to work because we got early released today at my office. We got to log off at 1 as long as we were at a good stopping point. So I was really focused on getting work done today and getting my dishes done because I am also dog sitting starting this evening. So I needed to get those dishes out of the way and clean before I left for a couple days. So I have not done any crocheting so far today. I did, however, get to listen to a bit of the Agatha Christie book that I borrowed. I started The Regatta Mystery and Other Stories last night, but by the time I started it, it was getting so late that I wasn't really able to absorb the information like I wanted to. So I literally got into like the first maybe 30 minutes of The Regatta Mystery, and they had literally just set up the premise, introduced the characters, and the theft had just occurred. So I figured it was a good stopping place before we got too in the weeds with the unraveling of the mystery. But I was able to listen to more of that as I was doing the dishes today. And I'm about like 2-ish hours into the audiobook, I believe, and it's around 5 total, so we're making good progress through that as well. And it's a collection of short stories, so a little bit of a different vibe from some of the other Agatha Christie books that I've read before, but I do enjoy her short stories because they are just like quick, punchy, one-off mysteries that are really fun to listen to in bite-sized portions, in my opinion. So yeah, we'll see if we can finish that tonight. And then I do also have Mythos borrowed from my library, and I have evenings and weekends as well. So we've got plenty of books to keep us busy throughout this dog sit for sure. I'm also bringing some crochet stuff with me. I'm also going to bring my camera. I'm not entirely sure how much I'm going to film because I am going to be in someone else's home. So the shots you get may just be close-ups of my hands and like some shots of the things that I'm making. But yeah, I just don't feel comfortable filming someone else's house. So updates are going to be sparse for the next couple days. But fear not, I will be being productive throughout it. And hopefully we can end this dog sit and this vlog with a pretty good stash of things that I made this week. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this update. I've got to go finish packing up my stuff so I can head to the dog sit. And yeah, we will have to check in a bit later. Bye. Alrighty friends, I am checking back in. I am back in my apartment for a brief moment. I had a package delivered, so I wanted to come over and bring that inside so it wasn't just sitting on my porch while I'm dog sitting. And then I also needed to bring my plants in from outside because it's supposed to get pretty cold over the next 48 hours. So I want to make sure that my little herb plants don't perish in the cold. So since I made a trip out to my apartment, I figured we could do a little impromptu update. And I'll let you know what I got through over the last 2-ish days since I had a check-in with you all. And it's not going to be all that much, to be fair, because yesterday was Thanksgiving. So I didn't do a ton of crocheting yesterday, but I do have a bit to update you on. So as I mentioned earlier in this video, I did not finish all of the mini chickens that I started out with. And I had finished, I believe there's 25 in here that I had finished before my dog sit. And I was able to finish the last 15 of them, so I brought those back over here in this bag so I could add them to the little basket with their brothers and sisters. And there you have it. That is all 40 chickens that I had in progress at the beginning of this video. So those are completely done now as well. And the only other thing that I was able to work on yesterday before I had to go be with my family for Thanksgiving was this market bag. So I was able to finish all of the mesh netting on this bag and the top portion of each side. So essentially all I have left are the straps to finish this guy off. So this one is also getting close to being finished, and hopefully I will be able to finish this at some point today. And then after that, I still need to make some bandanas because I haven't done that yet, but that is hopefully something that we can do tonight/tomorrow. And hopefully we can end this vlog with all of those chickens, this bag, and some bandanas done for the market. That would be ideal. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the crochet update. As far as the reading portion goes, I believe the last time we checked in, I spoke about how I finished Daisy Jones and the Six, and I enjoyed it, but it was not my favorite in the Taylor Jenkins Reid universe. Then while I was at my dog sit, I also watched Gone Girl, which was quite interesting, I'll say. They changed some interesting things in the movie to make the cops seem more competent and try to make you like Nick more as a person. Don't know how I feel about that, but it was still an interesting movie overall. Though I will say, I think I prefer the book to the movie, but there's 20 hours worth of audiobook, so there's a lot going on in the audiobook that just can't really be translated into a 2.5 hour movie. So that is not entirely surprising, but wanted to share that as well. Then I also started the Regatta Mystery and Other Stories by Agatha Christie. It's basically a collection of short stories, and I finished that this morning, actually. I had like 30 minutes left of the audiobook when I went to sleep last night, so I just knocked that out quickly this morning. And I did really enjoy that as well. I'm giving it like 3 stars because it's a collection of short stories, so none of them really stood out all that much to me. They're very fast-paced, and by the time you're putting together puzzle pieces, Poirot is already telling you what happened. So I don't think that these are any short stories that I will be reminiscing on in the future, but it was still fun that I got to read a Miss Marple story because I haven't touched Miss Marple as a character yet with Agatha Christie. I'm really focusing on the Poirot stories first before going into Miss Marple, but there was a Miss Marple short story in this collection, which I did enjoy as a little like sneak peek, if you will, into the Miss Marple universe. But yeah, I enjoyed all the stories. I thought they were very interesting. There was also another detective character, which after consulting the Wikipedia page, I found out that those stories particularly were originally intended to be Poirot stories, but for some reason, Agatha Christie just decided to not include those in the Poirot universe, I guess you could say, and create a different detective character called like Parker Pike, I think is his name, something along those lines. But it was just funny because you could totally see how it was once a Poirot idea, just in the way that he goes about investigating and the way that people talk to him, because it's the same way people talk to Poirot. Like, he's a world famous detective, but instead of it being the world famous detective that we are all aware of, it is someone totally different that we are not entirely familiar with at this point, at least. Then after I finished the Agatha Christie book, I did jump back into Mythos, and I have been listening to that for the last like hour or so of my day. So we are making progress, trucking through the books that I have borrowed currently, which is great in my opinion. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the reading/crochet update. I need to bring my plants inside before it freezes, and then I will be heading back to my dog sit, and I will just be working on more crochet and reading more books. So yeah, see y'all in the next check-in. Alrighty friends, and with that, we have reached the end of this reading slash crochet with me video. And I must say, I feel like we made some pretty good progress this week. Not anything crazy, but good progress nonetheless. As far as my crochet progress and what I was able to make this week, you would have seen I finished all of these mini whales as well as all of these mini chickens. So definitely made a lot of progress in this area for sure. All in all, there's over 50 plushies here though, so that is a lot in itself. And I'm very happy that I was able to get through both of these this week. Then I did completely finish one mesh market bag. It doesn't show up very well on camera, but this yarn does have speckles of color in it. So I personally think that this turned out really cute, even though it is mostly a neutral color. I think that the sprinkles of color in the yarn make it look so cute. And I did get partly through making a second one this week as well. I just didn't get all the way through making the bag. So this is what I got through bag wise this week. Then I also made this hair bandana in purple out of the bamboo yarn I was talking about, and I think it turned out super cute. Then I made a second one out of the blue color that I have, and I did different edging on this one as well, though overall they still are very similar, and I think they came out pretty cute. So I would like to make at least a couple more of these before the market in about a week, but we will see what I can get through in that time. But as far as this week goes, I was able to make 2 of these. And that's pretty much it for the crochet projects I've been working on this week. Doesn't feel like a lot just because these baskets just feel like one thing, even though there's a bunch of them in here. But I do think that we made good progress this week overall, being that I wasn't really home for part of the week and it was Thanksgiving, so got to give myself a little bit of a break there, in that there were other things happening that distracted me from being just completely productive on this goal. Then as far as the reading that I did this week, the first book that I finished was Daisy Jones and the Six, and I ended up giving that a 4 out of 5 stars, just to keep it more on par with the other Taylor Jenkins Reid books that I have already read. And then I also watched the show, which at times was quite different from the book, and I don't fully understand why they made some of the choices that they made for the TV show. Some of the changes I understand, like Billy and Camila's meeting. In the book, they meet, I believe, at a wedding reception that the Dunn Brothers band is playing at, and then in the TV show, they meet randomly in a laundromat. So that's an example of one of the changes that doesn't really do much to the story, in my opinion. But then there's other things that they change, like they just remove a whole person from the band. Like, the band is called Daisy Jones and the Six because in the book, Daisy Jones was an artist on her own. She already had an album that was doing okay but not amazing, and the Six was a separate band doing their own albums, doing okay but not anything amazing, until the producer Teddy Price suggests that they do a song together. And that is how Daisy Jones and the Six is formed. And the whole point of the band name The Six is because there are 6 people in the band. They have Karen on piano, Graham is a guitarist, Billy is the lead vocalist, Warren is on drums, Eddie is another guitarist, and then Eddie's brother Pete is their bassist, if I remember correctly, the positions of the band in the book. And for some reason in the movie, they completely take Eddie's brother Pete out of the equation. So there's only 5 people in the band called The Six. And I don't understand why they did that, because that just makes the whole band name not make sense anymore. Even when you add Daisy into the mix and there are 6 of them, the name still doesn't make sense because it's Daisy Jones and the Six. So there should be 6 people in addition to Daisy Jones. And they even make a point in the book of talking about how 7 people is a lot for a band when you have to like agree on things and, you know, plan tours, things that a lot of people probably wouldn't agree on right off the bat. So I just thought that that was really weird. And there were other things kind of like that they changed for this TV show that just didn't really need to be there, in my opinion. They inserted a whole romantic / jealousy arc between the character Eddie and Camila and Billy, and that just wasn't a thing at all in the book. Like, Eddie's whole thing in the book is that he really does not like working with Billy Dunn. He feels like Billy Dunn always outshone him in the band. And then he goes on to be a record producer and quite successful on his own merits after the band breaks up. He also doesn't have that ending in the movie. So it's just interesting how they chose to go about that, in my opinion. It was still a good show. I still enjoyed it overall, but there were just a lot of parts, especially in the last episode, where I was just like, where did this come from? This was not even a thought in the book. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy that, mostly just because I don't see the reason for changing the plot points that they did change. It didn't really better the story, in my opinion, and I don't really think it was all that necessary, but who am I to say? That is just my humble opinion as someone who read the book and then watched the show. Then I also watched the movie Gone Girl, which kind of similarly, they did change quite a bit. I definitely did not remember most of that movie, so that was fun to revisit in that sense. I do think that they did a lot to make Nick look like a better husband than he was in the book. They also did a lot to make the cops look more competent than they were in the book, because like in the book, the whole thing with the scavenger hunt that they do every year on their anniversary, rather that Amy puts together every year on their anniversary, the whole conflict with that is the fact that Nick as a character is horrible at them. He himself says in the book that his personal best at one of these scavenger hunts that they have had 4 of over the course of their marriage, his best score was 2 out of 7. He's not very good at them. It's supposed to be a demonstration of how he doesn't really listen to his wife. He doesn't really pay attention to her favorite things or conversations that they have and things like that. But in the movie, they make it seem like he enjoyed it a lot more and that he was a lot better at it than he was in the book. And there's even this scene that just, it made me so irrationally upset because I believe it's supposed to be for their 2nd wedding anniversary, which I guess is like cotton is the material or whatever for that. And in the movie, they make it through the whole scavenger hunt. He gets to the last place. The waiter at the restaurant brings him soup or something, I don't know. And then they give each other their gifts. And in the movie, they get each other the exact same set of sheets. And that's supposed to be a moment of like, oh my God, we're so in sync. We just know each other so well. Like, look at us. We thought of getting the exact same thing for each other for our anniversary. And that like is so far from what happens in the book. Like, he talks about how some of the presents that they exchange, they're both disappointed in what they get. And that pretty much every anniversary where they do these scavenger hunts, it ends in them fighting at the end of the day. I don't know, it's just stuff like that that I really don't like them changing for the movie, because yes, Amy is the villain in the book for sure. She's insane. She literally murders someone in the book, which does also happen in the movie. But my problem is that it just felt like they were trying to make Nick into like a perfect victim, where you just kind of feel worse for him overall in the movie than you ever do in the book. In the book, there are times where I'm like, honestly, dude, you kind of deserve each other. I don't really feel that bad for you right now. And like I said in my last video, when I was reading Gone Girl, that's mostly from his own narrative. It wasn't even the falsified information that Amy was feeding the reader as an unreliable narrator throughout the entire book. It was his own inner monologue that really made me not like him in the book. And I just feel like they did a lot to kind of whitewash him for the movie, and I was not a big fan of that. And the stuff with the police and making them more competent was more funny to me than anything else, because in the book, I distinctly remember Amy watching news coverage of the investigation and being so upset that the cops aren't like finding her diary. And that also goes back to the scavenger hunt thing, because one of the clues in the scavenger hunt is supposed to lead Nick to the diary that has all of these allegations of him being an abusive husband in it. and he did not find it because he's bad at scavenger hunts, specifically this scavenger hunt. And so in the book, because no one is finding her diary, which is supposed to be like this linchpin of the case that she has built against her husband, she ends up calling the anonymous tip line while she's in hiding, trying to get them to find this diary. And it's just funny to me that like they got rid of pretty much all of that in the movie, and I don't know if that's to move the story along or whatnot, because it was a 20-hour audiobook and you can only do so much with a 2.5-hour movie. But I still think that that was a weird choice overall and kind of took away a bit of the comedicness that I found in the book itself. I still liked the movie, it just wasn't as good as the book, but like, honestly, is it ever as good as the book? And then after I finished Daisy Jones and the Six and I watched the show and Gone Girl, I then started and finished The Regatta Mystery by Agatha Christie. And that was a collection of short stories, some with Poirot as the main character. There was one with Miss Marple as the main character. There was another detective character by the name of Parker Pyne that was in some of the stories that was fun to listen to. But like I said earlier, overall, there weren't any short stories that were knock my socks off amazing. It was fun to dip into the Miss Marple universe to read a short story with her as the main detective, because I just haven't read any of those yet. But other than that, I think that this is a pretty middle of the road collection of short stories from Agatha Christie. They're all really fast paced, quick to the point, and just kind of a fun mini whodunit that I enjoyed listening to as I was doing chores around the house, like doing my laundry or doing the dishes, things like that. And so I ended up giving that 3 out of 5 at the end of the day because it was purely average in my Agatha Christie reading experience. And the last book that I worked on reading this week but didn't finish was Mythos by Stephen Fry. I just kind of wanted to get a refresher on my general Greek mythology, and that's one of my favorite books to do that with. So yeah, I am about 5 hours into that audiobook, I believe. So I am about a third of the way into that audiobook, and that is one that I will continue into next week. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this end of video check-in. I felt like it was pretty productive. We got quite a bit of crocheting done. We got 2 new books added to my reading challenge for the year, and currently sitting at 31 out of 50 books. So don't think we're gonna make it all the way to 50, but we might potentially be able to make it to 40 before the end of the year, which I would be happy about because that's pretty on par with the lower end of my reading habits for the last few years. So yeah, we're going to aim for 40 and see if we can make it there. And I may even just lower my reading goal on Goodreads so that I feel a little more fulfilled if I do hit 40 by the end of the year. That's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and leave a like down below. Let me know. You should also subscribe while you're down there so you're notified whenever I put out a new video. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!